Host disabled participant screen sharing. No. Morning.
Good afternoon.
Or good evening, I guess, for you.
Yeah, it is.
Hi.
It's dark here. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you. So, do we pronounce your name Joost?
Yeah, that's about right. It's Joost in Dutch, but it's more than enough. Yeah,
That's the American version of how to pronounce your name.
think so. Yeah.
Okay, well, anyhow, I'm Cindy. Whoops, and I just made that go away. I'm Cindy. This is my dad, Bill Purple.
Hello, Cindy, and hello, Bill. Nice to meet you. Very honored.
What a pleasure this is for me as well. Cindy brought this up and I says, life is too short. This can't happen, and thank you.
Yeah, it does happen. Yeah, wow. Well, I'm honored to speak to you. Yeah, both of you, of course.
Yeah, we were able to access your document, and that is quite a massive piece of work.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been an epic journey to say the least. And it started out with a single page in a book. I want to learn something about formations or forming up, and I have something with numbers and patterns. And it turned out to be this project. So it got a little bit out of hand, but I really wanted to learn how they planned it and executed it. So yeah. And at first, I didn't realize it was the largest mission ever. So, well, it took me over 10 years.
Oh, I was going to say, how long have you been working on it? But
More than
over
10 years now, and I'm still probably will never finish. But that's okay. That's okay.
Wow.
Yeah. So, sorry.
I was going to say, I'd like to interrupt because I already spent 2 hours reading it yesterday.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And went through it, and it brought back every darn memory I could think of. That's wholeheartedly the greatest truthful document in my eyes, and what I experienced as I've ever seen.
It's wow, that means a lot to me when you say that. It's wow, speechless. Yeah, that means a lot.
Yeah. No, I went through it right from the beginning, and of course, I was blessed to be with the 8th Air Force in my time zone.
Yeah.
And participated with 35 missions, of which I'm looking at my calendar here, and on the December 24th, mission by my Air Force base was number 252. We flew 330 missions out of the Kim Bolton Air Base.
Right, yeah.
It says there December 24th, and then it says air drones. Well, you know that I got a real mischief, not really the way you phrase that on the 24th. We got there's so much fog that we could never land.
Yeah.
Therefore, we were airborne, tried 2 attempts to land and couldn't because of the fog.
Right.
And what happened on that situation on takeoff, I was number 8 man on takeoff. We were airborne, and we could see 300 feet in front with the fog. That was as much you could with a loaded bomber, and that's like I hit a golf ball that far.
Wow.
And we weren't airborne, but anyway, we got airborne, and then all of a sudden my co-pilot grabbed his side of the stick and pulled on it fiercely, and we did into a zoom and took out this telephone pole 6 feet off the ground with number 2 engine.
Yeah, wow.
That's
okay.
how it happened. So that's how it happened. So therefore, they did fly some more, and I'm not sure whether we yet to this day, I'm not checking it out. But anyway, the Molesworth operation, which was north of us and where I was, the situation is I was airborne. I had no number 2 engine wasn't working. Couldn't land back because you couldn't see 300 feet in front of you with a loaded bomber.
Right.
Plus full of bombs and full of gas. So subject to that, we flew 5 hours in the sky over northern England, eventually dropped the bombs in the North Sea and landed at a base we found at the southeastern part of England, and landed there safely. They met us and put us up for the night. We were allowed to sleep on the floor in the hangar. That was nice and harder than nothing. But
Okay.
anyway, they replaced the engine, they replaced the aircraft, and I flew back to my base. And so therefore, on the 27th, I went to another raid. And then I'm looking at my raid. Merzenhausen was on the 24th. Erskirchen was on the 27th, and there's another one that I'm going to go flying, I guess, tomorrow, December 31st, according to schedule. Well, I think
Wow.
that's a marvelous thing that you put together.
The story you're telling me now, you're in the air for 5 hours, is totally new to me. The only thing I read is that you hit a pole, and the nacelle was damaged, I believe, and you had to land. But I didn't realize you landed somewhere else, and after 5 hours of flight. That's totally new for me. So those kind of details I love.
I hope you're taking good notes.
Yes, yes. I hope you don't mind. I'm recording it as we speak, so I can listen back, because this is. If you have problems with it, I will delete it, of course. But this is a proud moment for me.
Oh, yeah, no, I wish I was trying to figure out how to record this, and it says ask the host for permission to record, and I'm the host. So
Oh.
I don't know how to do that.
Well, it's recording here, so I'm fine with it.
Oh,
So
good.
but that story is amazing. Yeah. Wow.
Good. So wait a minute, my husband Chuck's here in the background too. What was your question?
Were you flying for 5 hours to burn off fuel or waiting for the fog to clear?
Combination. We were the 5 hours, give or take, was to burn off the fuel
And wait for the fog to clear.
and wait for the fog. But we never did land at our base. We
Right.
landed one on the southeastern part of England.
And you said in the meantime, you dropped your bomb
And
load in the North Sea.
we dropped our bombs about 2 hours out.
Yeah.
That was where we did north of that part of the North Sea where we were. And that was the bombing hole. And so if you had to get rid of bombs, you're not going to try to land with a bomb load on.
Of course not. No.
That would be one. And so like we were able to do all that, got away with it. And as I said, that night, I think it was a Saturday night, but I'll check it out one day. We were there, and as I said, everything was fine. And it took them 2 days to put new number two engine in.
Yeah.
And then there was slight discrepancy there at that point. We took off late at the afternoon, and you don't fly in England in World War II at nighttime. There isn't a light burning on the whole island. It was at that point.
Mm-hmm.
So however, we ended up flying, and my navigator screwed something up. So we were 2 hours in the sky before we could find a place to land in the dark, and we had to take and go motion. Change it. I don't mean it in the dark that way. It was dark outside. Finally, we said to the people, they had a code name of Blackie. And if you call that with the right combination of radio maintenance frequencies, somebody would put a runway light up if you were nearby. Okay. And that happened to us. So we landed at this other airport then that night, and everything's fine. And then the next morning, of course, nice clear day, took off, went back to the base.
Yeah.
Being gone 3 days, basically, got back, and when I looked at some of my clothes, they weren't there anymore because I had been crashed.
Oh, so you thought you were missing?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. When you flew back, Dad, was it in the same plane without number 2 engine?
No, they replaced the engine.
No, they put it. That's it. The minute we
apparently wasn't listening.
The minute we landed, they started to repair the engine.
Gotcha.
Okay.
So just a little minor little thing hitting the ground every now and then.
Yeah.
Howard Seitzer.
I'm sorry?
Well,
Howard Seitzer was.
It's Chuck. Chuck.
Howard Seitzer was what, your navigator?
Howard Seitzer was a waist gunner.
Oh, so you should tell him that.
Yeah.
He's still alive.
Yeah. Howard is still alive. I talked to him a couple of days ago, and as Cindy put in her communication, Tennell is also in one of the groups there, and Tennell took after me, but then in my opinion, as I quoted earlier, I think we closed flying, but yes or no. Anyway, Jack Tennell, Howard Seitzer, and I have had a glass of bourbon for about 15 years every Christmas morning.
December 24th.
Well, this as December. I'm sorry, December 24th.
Yeah.
And so today's issue is Howard's son and I somehow got in a communication a couple of days ago different. And so I wanted to get Howard's number, and of course he's 101 now, tied up very well, very bright, and he's in a rest care facility. But I didn't have his number, so when Howard's son answered, he was in Germany on his cell phone. So I said, "Okay, give me the phone number." He said, "Oh, well, I just talked to him 20 minutes ago, and therefore the number's there. He'd be glad to talk to you." I says, "Of course he'll be glad to talk to me." So by making a communication in Germany, half hour later, I'm talking to Howard up in Wisconsin.
Wow.
Crazy world.
It is a crazy
Yeah.
world, is it? Yeah. Wow. May
So
I
Howard-
ask?
So Howard's still alive, and then on that, was it page 490 where you had the bomb groups listed out, where I said I saw my dad's name?
Yeah. Yeah.
In the bomb group on that same page, directly next to him on the left, you've got a pilot named Tennell.
Tennell, Tunnell. I mentioned that.
Yeah, that's the other person who.
Well, he was directly behind me on takeoff on the 24th.
Right.
And Jackson in
And-
California, and you talked.
Right,
Yeah, too.
in time, that was it. We saw each other as mission people. Ended up as we completed our missions or whatever, and that was the end of Jack Tennell and myself. Well, someplace the organization, the 379, started to have reunions.
Mm-hmm.
And somehow at one reunion, and that didn't happen till 1980. So you're going from 44 to 80 with no communication anywhere.
Wow.
Well, as it happened, our commanding officer, Colonel Lyle, who I've flown with and whatnot, he called. He was located someplace in New England, and says, "We're starting a reunion committee in a formation." So we did start the 379th Bomb Group.
Wow.
And we continued to have meetings and whatnot, reunions up until 2013. And so Jack was there, so he was still alive, but he's gone, as best my knowledge now. But the world has been fantastically, I say, good in regard to how that all developed.
Yeah.
Total-
We'll let you ask some questions now.
Well, the one I wanted to ask is maybe a different question. Maybe I'm in the military as well. I've been deployed twice to Afghanistan, and I'm an aircraft mechanic. And I think I pretty much can relate to those guys on the ground in Kim Bolton working on your aircraft, perhaps. But how was living on base? How was your life on base while you were not flying?
How do you want to answer that one?
I'm not sure I understood.
How was he's saying he can relate to the other ground crew because he's in the Air Force
Sure.
and such, but he wanted to know, how was your life on base when you weren't flying?
Well, we played baseball. We fooled around. Officers generally from where we were in Bedford, which is 60 miles north of London, or 40 miles north of London to Luton, we'd go to London and spend the weekend or whatever, because we weren't scheduled to fly.
Mm-hmm.
And did many of that. Example of here, just sort of put you in respect to that, I told you that on December 31st, tomorrow, I'm going to fly to Neuse to blow on the marshalling yards.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I had been promoted in this range late in December to a lead pilot. So therefore, I was in the 525th Bomb Squadron prior to that.
Mm-hmm.
When I was appointed in, I was assigned to the 526th Squadron, which they considered all leadership people, be men all kinds of troops. So then, instead of flying that much, I went on a raid on January 2nd to Dawn. I went to Bonn in the 10th. I went to Neuss on the 23rd. I went to Cologne. So I only took through 7 missions or 8 missions in January
Okay.
Yeah, but
because we had lead people enough to take and circle and do it that way.
But he
So-
was also asking, you know, what your life was like when you weren't flying, but didn't you do things like you took other planes for
Oh,
test rides
Oh, wow,
and
yeah, okay.
happened to meet people in the air?
No,
and-
as we,
Or
I
what were
had
barracks
either,
like?
as, how come you want to go into that? Okay, what she's saying is, other days that we weren't flying in missions, we were flying repaired aircraft for 4-hour test periods.
Right. Okay.
So we'd go, that we were assigned that, take myself, my co-pilot, and the engineer, and we go up and fly for 4 hours. And what you're saying is you're breaking in the engine to see it is all put together.
Right.
And doing that, well, strange things happen in life sometime because we did a lot of that. And one time, and I got it here someplace, my co-pilot was McDonald. Why are you laughing?
Wasn't me, it was him.
No, was it? Yeah. Huh?
One day, McKinnon, rather, my co-pilot, and Roberts, my engineer, we had a 4-engine flight to go for about 4 hours north of Kimbolton, and we were at 8,000 feet. And at 8,000 feet, we were just slow timing, we'll call it 150 miles an hour, basically, or did whatever was required to test the engine. And then all of a sudden, strange thing on this day was I looked over on the left and we're basically at 8,000 feet. And there's an aircraft way over there, about 8 miles or something. Who knows? You just barely could see it. So I asked Mac, I says, what is this? And he says, I don't know, but let's go find out. So we went over and it was a British aircraft, multi-engine. And so we pulled up in close formation, ended up trying to dial them with the radio, but their frequencies were different than ours. So eventually we found it and made the combination, and I wasn't more than 100 feet from the wingtip of the other aircraft. And the person suddenly that was answering my phone was took the helmet off and had the most beautiful red hair you ever want to see.
Must be British.
So it was. So I have her name here someplace, but we made a date that day right there in the aircraft at 8,000 feet to go and meet in London. No,
You should-
in Bedford, and we had many a date. She
You should
came down.
clarify that the pilot was a female.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The pilot had red hair.
Yeah. Well, the pilot was female, beautiful, lovely lady.
But didn't you hold up your fingers and to get on the same frequency, and that's how you ended up
Well,
talking?
That is right.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's what you do. You make a date up at 8,000 feet with a British aircraft.
Amazing. Okay. Didn't see that
Are
one
you
coming.
sure? Are you really sure you want to hear more about what he did when he wasn't flying?
Well,
No,
well.
we did that. No, it was ever.
I mean, you had an officers club, right?
It was an officers club. London was the place to go, really.
Yeah.
And I've been at London and been places where bombs have dropped while I've been 100 or no, 1,000 feet away or something. But
Yeah.
hey, that was life, and you did what you did.
Hold that thought on the office.
It
Yeah.
was fun. You know, and I looked at other things, and right just recently, like yesterday.
Hey, Dad,
Yeah.
can you just go back to when you were at the officers club? They used to have, tell them about
that,
this.
I know that one. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
That's
Yeah,
from
with
the,
the,
I know it from the movie. How it's called?
Memphis Belle?
No, it's not the
No.
Memphis Belle movie. It's a Very Orphan with Gregory Peck in
1
it.
12
o'clock
o'clock
high
high.
could be it.
12 O'Clock High, I think it was. Yeah.
Okay. Well, then that's how you knew when you were hanging at the officers club, right?
Oh, yeah, well, different things we all do.
But
But one of the things that you did do, and I'll show you later, Cindy, is there's pictures that we would have parades and we'd have the whole, you're not flying today? The whole group, 6,000 people be out on a runway in a perfect parade.
Okay.
Everybody, there's pictures of that in that book there.
okay,
So, and whatever, played baseball a lot, managed to have dates on occasion when we had the officers club in operation.
Mm.
Went different places, and
and how did you fund things at the officers club? Wasn't when you
oh, yeah, Cindy's bringing these things up. Well,
My job.
at the officers club, of course, every officers club that I've ever been in had slot machines. You'd think you were in a gambling operation. And the slot machines in our base, you ended up supporting it as you came back from a mission, and every time you bounced, it cost you 50 cents. I gave a lot of money.
Okay.
50 cents. They're up in the tower. Oops, there's two, there's four. And it's easy to bounce a B-17 when she's empty. She's very flyable.
So, if I,
So the world was different.
so you had a good life at base, I think.
I can't say I've had anything but a marvelous life.
no,
Right.
but on base you had a good life.
Well, whatever, it's there, yeah.
Yeah.
There's no other way of saying it.
Let's put it, a friend of my father's wrote a book and he captured the stories of either 11 or 13 World War II veterans from central Massachusetts where we live.
Yeah.
My dad is chapter 1 in that book.
Okay.
I believe the chapter is called If You Didn't Get Hurt, It Was a Pretty Good Time.
That's
Yeah.
my statement.
Yeah,
I
that's it.
meant to say the life on base is you're relatively safe, of course, and then you have everything at your disposal. But of course, you have your frightened moments in the air. Of course, I think that those were not the fun moments, I guess.
Made up for it.
Yeah. It's a strange balance of life, I think. A couple of hours before you're above hostile territory, and the same night you're in the officers' mess. I think that can be very strange.
Long as you're one of the ones that came back.
Of course, but he came back, of course. But I can relate a little bit to myself when I went from Afghanistan back home. At that moment you're in Afghanistan, and a couple of hours later you're in a safe area and you're swimming in the pool with your colleagues, and that was a very strange feeling. In just a couple of hours, and you're in a totally different mindset and in a different different country, of course. Yeah. So I think maybe I can relate to that as well, because as he flew above Germany or France, and then he come back to England and do his thing, that must be the same thing, I guess.
How long were you in Afghanistan?
Well, for typical Dutch, where I've been there in total for 7 months. First period was 3.5 months in Kabul, and my second period was 4.5 months in Mazar-e Sharif in the north. Yeah, and I did F-16 maintenance over there.
Wow. Is that the end of your deployments, or will you go again?
Well, currently I'm an instructor, and the possibilities for me going on deployment are slim. And the F-16 we're now flying are being replaced by the F-35, and the F-16 is most likely not going to deploy anymore during a lifetime. So, may sound strange, but I do like to go on a deployment again. Yeah, it's been a long time ago.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, certainly we and the rest of the world appreciate everybody who's fighting the good fight. So.
Well, it's being honored talking to somebody who is taking part in being me living in a free country today. So that is that is the truth. Yeah.
Well, what was interesting part of the scan of what you had printed and whatnot is, of course, I've got similar things here on a piece of paper
Correct.
that's covered, and I don't even know where this came, but it's mine. So it says briefing, report to the briefing room. You had that,
Mhm.
right?
Just report to the briefing room on time.
Well, yeah. The commanding officer walks into the briefing room and attention is called until he has released us. The screen is then raised over the map. Colonel Lyle, which you mentioned, which was my colonel, points out a target for today, giving us definite reports on location, number of aircraft hitting targets, position and formation, group, combat wing, division, and 8th Air Force also briefs us on enemy opposition expected. That's what Lyle's job was, to give you, this is it. The navigation briefing officer, Major Edwards, then briefs on a course to fly to target, times for arrival at control points, course and length of bomb run, also best route to avoid energy opposition. Well, constantly we had the aircraft, the 8th Air Force, and everybody had their flying over Germany, depending what. Fortunately for me, at least France was clear and I didn't have to worry about that part. You still had to go to Germany. You find a river, you see 88 millimeter flat guns there, being whatever. So that's what the navigation officer did. The bombardiering officer, Major Milson, who Major Milson and I have had many a beverage in different places after the war, then briefs the bombardier on the actual target. He gives a pinpoint, main aiming point on target, type of bombs carried, few settings, and date to be set into bomb site. But good for him. He was good. The aircraft airdrome officer, Captain Clinton, I don't remember him, then get up and explains all airdrome discrepancies, dangers to taxiing, order to taxi, different lighting facilities, flares to be used, and missed other reports. Well, the point was
No, it says
other trash.
flares to be used and a mess of other trash.
Yeah. When it says here
It gets
also
better.
taxiing, we're going to have at Kimball minimum of 36, three divisions, or rather 3 squadrons, 12 each, 36 aircrafts going on the thing at that time. And they take off at 30-second intervals.
Right.
But when they fire the rocket, or rather target pistol go ahead, everybody is converging from all parking spaces and going up and down outside runways to get to the main runway. So that was always interesting. The weather officer, Lieutenant Report, then gets up and gives a weather briefing. What type of weather on takeoff, expected weather en route at target, and return and landing. Sometimes briefs us on emergency landing at other airfields. Oh, I'm good at that. I did that.
Yeah.
If this weather at home is unfit for flying, he is usually the last one to give any briefing. Colonel Lyle then gets up and usually cracks a pretty good joke, then wishes us luck, and that completes to the day's briefing. The Catholic boys then go to the Catholic chaplain to make good boys of themselves. The Protestants and others too likewise. Many dread time before going on a mission until it has started. Then they are in their glory. Comes time for takeoff, all are ready, and the planes start taking to the air at 30-second intervals. The mission has begun with 39 ships, because we carry 3 extra, to a bomb group. How many will return depends on enemy lock position. Mission then has officially begun. Now that's covered very, very nicely in your particular thing, and that's my life at that point in time.
Wow, it's
And got away with them all.
wow, yeah. The way you're talking about the
and-
briefing, it's just yeah, I can relate to. Yeah, I know it. Go on with it. Yeah, and then okay, the joke of your commander. Yeah. So how was your relation with the commander? He's making a joke. So was there a good relationship with your commander?
Colonel Lyle was no problem at all. He was a fine man.
Right.
easy to get along with. He actually, I was walking to a mission from wherever on the far part where my aircraft was at that point, and going back to get breakfast, and this Jeep came by, he stopped, picked me up, and gave me a ride to the mess hall. I can remember that to this day. Damn good. I think I fixed his flat tire somewhere.
Wow.
So,
And your crew, were you considered them as friends, or you're one team, or did you hang out together during day offs, or it's difficult to imagine for me because I think there was a distinction between officers and NCOs. Is it right?
more or less right. I think what happens really in my time, when I graduated from flight school in March 1944, March 14th, I think, 1944, I immediately was assigned to go B-17 training in Sebring, Florida, after a couple of days leave, month leave or something. So I was flying B-17s at age 20, just barely, or finishing up 19. I graduated from there, flew the aircraft and whatnot. Subsequent after that, they said I was good enough to be a pilot. Don't forget, I'm a young squirt. Everybody's 23, 4, 5 to be that part. Assigned up towards Tampa, Florida. Plant Park is what it was called, and I was assigned my crew. So McKinnon I got for co-pilot, Roberts, Seitzer, the rest of them. And therefore, we were assigned to go to Gulfport, Mississippi to learn bombing group structure that we would be using in England. And we graduated from there. And then when that happened, and all things squared away. Suddenly one day there, we were there and got a telegram said, go to where am I going in Georgia? Savannah. Yeah, we go to Savannah, get a brand new airplane and go to England. It's just sort of like that, you know? And I'm like, yeah, sure. If you get a convertible car instead. But in any event, we got the aircraft. Definitely everything's fine. My co-pilot and I, everybody examined it to the nth degree. Took off on a particular day. Ended up going to start the process to fly to England. So we went north to New Hampshire by the B-17 that day from Savannah. Had a fire when we took off, but fortunately we put it out, and so the aircraft was damaged up in New Hampshire, so they repaired that. Then we flew up to Newfoundland.
You forgot you did a flyby over your hometown.
Oh.
Well,
As we were, yeah. Well, let's say this. What she's saying is, when we left Savannah, we were down Pennsylvania, and then suddenly we're in Springfield, about 5,000 feet. And I said, gee, my gosh, I come from Athol, and that's only 5 minutes away.
In a B-17.
In a B-17. So we went over, and somehow I had communicated with my parents, and we made 3 passes over Athol that never's been anybody lower than we have. And I waved to my mother and my friends, and they were down below. And then went to up in New Hampshire.
Think of Tom Cruise doing the flyby in Top Gun.
Yeah, okay. Only the pattern wasn't full. Yeah.
Let's put it this way: we weren't very high.
No,
I think we were below one of the manufacturing in the chimneys when we went through. But we had safety either way. Nobody reported us, so that we were okay.
Not that you know of. Yeah.
What are they gonna do? Not send you to war?
Huh?
What are they gonna do if they disappoint?
Yeah. The other point is, said, yeah, are they going to court martial me and not send me to war?
Yeah.
So
yeah. What are they going to do about
it? You can do anything basically and get away with it. So anyway, that was marvelous that I could do that. My neighbors there, and flags waving on a second and third pass. To finish anyway, we ended up in New Hampshire. Then we went to Newfoundland. And we were there for quite some time because the weather to fly from Newfoundland to Europe, you needed at least a good 40-mile-an-hour tailwind.
Okay.
And therefore it didn't happen that way. And you wouldn't want to be heading in that because you got the B-17, you're going to be cruising at about 165. And you got, it's a 12-hour ride basically from Newfoundland to where we landed in Valley, Wales. But we did that out for that one night at midnight in the middle of a snowstorm, but they had tailwinds. So we got there finally and landed at Valley, Wales. And we there. Immediately, they took my airplane, and my crew and I, we didn't have, our job was to just bring the airplane in and get yourself there. So when we left that, we came back, and they took us to our base at the Kimball, the 379th Bomb Group. And we got there, and then from that point on, that's where I stayed for the next 7 months.
7 months, wow.
Back to the original question, were you friendly with your crew and others, or did officers hang together and the?
Circumstances dictated that.
Okay, so.
Right.
Yeah, they basically, well, the situation was different, Cindy. Over here were the officers structured. Over here were the enlisted men structured. So on the base, more or less, it was business. You didn't have the chance to, other than baseball and different things, to associate. And generally, if you didn't want to do anything, well, then you went down to Bedford, you went to Kimball, and you did whatever. So it's hard to say.
But
Well,
you
like
also,
if you went to London, would you go with other officers, or would it be your crew, you and your crew that went to London?
No, individually.
Oh, you'd go by yourself.
Well, yeah, generally, Mac and I went together, McKinnon and I.
Okay, so he was a member of your crew.
Yeah, he was my co-pilot.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The bombardier was a person that was different. Not talking this
well,
one here.
but you also had different crews for different missions, so it wasn't like you were always
Well,
a tight-knit group, because when you get different
yeah.
navigators and waist
Well,
gunners and.
you make a point. Once I was elected to be a lead pilot, I didn't know who I was going to be flying with later, who they would assign to me, the whole crew. Well, in my fortunate portion, my crew was pretty darn good. So I would get most of them assigned to me when I was flying. That's the way that went together. But association was what it was. I'd say limited.
Yeah, I think I understand. Yeah, okay. And whilst you were flying a mission, I know a B-17 has an autopilot, but you were flying manually, and then the co-pilot took over sometime, or did you fly him all by yourself, all the way in and out?
Use autopilot much, or just you flying and your co-pilot?
I'm trying to think.
Okay.
Well, I didn't fly all the way. Let's put it, well, change it. If you're the lead pilot, your aircraft are stable.
Right.
You're going to fly 150 miles an hour, or whatever the targeted mileage was set up for.
Sure.
If you're on the right wing or the left wing, you are always flying that aircraft in formation.
Right.
So as a pilot, you flew half of it, the co-pilot did whatever was happening. So the answer to that, the rest, the pilot and the co-pilot shared the distance to fly.
Right. Yeah.
Once you got to the initial point of the bomb run, which could be 10 minutes, 2 minutes, 10, whatever, then me as lead pilot was my job to fly the aircraft if I wasn't flying lead, and that was it. When you went on the initial part of the bomb run, if you were absolutely the squadron leader, then the bombardier is now, navigating bombardier is flying the airplane. Because they're taking it from point to initial point to target point. And I sat there listening to music. There was nothing else to do.
Yeah.
Ready.
I've watched your interview, which is on YouTube, in front of Memphis Belle, and you were talking about listening to music as well. I mentioned Glenn Miller, I believe you mentioned.
What'd you listen to for music? Glenn Miller?
Glenn Miller until he got lost in the ocean.
Yeah, of course, yeah. But yeah, okay.
But that was my time of music, Glenn Miller and all those tropes. You're talking in the early 40s.
Yeah, and how did you listen to that music? Did you have a record player on board, or was the radio operator
No,
tuning
no,
in?
radios.
Wow,
It
wow.
wasn't an iPod.
No, it wasn't.
Yeah,
No, but
it's a radio frequency. Get on a bomb run that's 30 minutes long. Hey, the bombardier's got it or whatever. You sit there. Hey, Mac, how are you going? Whatever.
I
And then-
tried to put
then
things
you
in perspective, but
target
it is
What
quite
you got?
amazing when you're on a bomb run and then you're listening to Glenn Miller. It's wow, yeah,
Watching the flak blow up in front of you.
yeah.
I've done that too.
Yeah, while you got flak coming at you, and
You know, the
it is a
88,
little surreal.
Yeah.
88 millimeter flag gun in certain places like many of them there. They get it at a target range. They shut the shell out at let's say 25,000 feet generally because where we flew, and they'd put this burst right in front of you, and you had to fly through it. There was no way out of it. And so
Oh,
I have come back with damaged airplanes and whatnot. Crashed 3 others, but that's okay. Walk away from them. What
They
the
didn't
hell?
make you pay for them.
I didn't have to pay for them by crashing them, you know.
no, you probably had a good reason, huh? Yeah.
No, so the bombing raid was there, and we fortunately, as about the time I got there, we were able to have the Mustang P-51s. Prior to that, you had the Thunderbirds, yeah, I think so, the P-47 and the P-38, and they could only go part way.
Yeah.
And so therefore, and again, you're going back earlier when you had to fly over enemy territory in parts of eastern France and whatnot.
Mhm.
Under that guideline, just there, you're there, you're going to get hit, you're going to get hit. If you're in a bomb run, you're not going to change.
Is it that simple?
Well, it is. It is. How much? I mean, you're looking at me, I'm looking at you,
Mhm.
and you're flying the plane right now.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I
You know, you look over to the right, you look over to the left, you're jockeying back to be in position if you're not the lead plane, which fortunately I was. And what you do, of course, once you get to the initial point of the bomb run, you bring your airplanes in as close as you can to all 13, no, 12 of them, 3, 6, 9, 12. You put 12 of them together because at 25,000 feet, visualize if your nose is up, you're going to throw the bombs far.
Mhm.
If you happen to be just taken down a little bit, you're going to drop. They're going to hit a lot shorter than what your lead pilot has dropped, or vice versa.
Right.
That's a arithmetic
Arithmetic.
calculation.
So-
And then after you're off the target, well, whatever's happened to you physically, damage or otherwise, you still fly the formation back to more or less the same way you went.
Hmm. So would you
And then-
say while you were flying that your training kicks in, and then maybe after you're landed back at Kim Bolton, then you start to realize, okay, what happened? Or I'm glad I'm back home.
Try that again.
While
Oh.
you're flying, are you just kind of mentally, you're just doing what you've been trained for, and then when you land, you go, wow, look what I just did? You know,
Hey, we got back. That's about the only thing. Whatever the thoughts were,
Mm.
you know, because there was enemy as well, enemy aircraft in certain spots, or anti-aircraft 88 millimeter stuff in all parts of Germany, even after your fighters have stopped escorting you. So it's sitting here like I'm looking at you and saying, well, let's go. And okay.
Yeah, I think something that we don't appreciate, well, looking at, you know, how we live today, when he'd come back from a mission, he didn't have CNN or something broadcasting
No.
in real time what just happened.
Right. Yeah.
So their visibility of what they accomplished on their mission is nothing like what you get today.
No, that's true.
Oh, yeah, but
So,
when we return from the mission, fortunately, we'll take the example, nobody's hurt.
Yeah.
Therefore, we park in a particular location. they pick us up and bring us over to the receiving area. And therefore we're interviewed. But before, as you get there right away, the girls have got coffee, they
Red
got
Cross
donuts waiting for it. You might have bourbon, you know, or scotch that you had,
Mhm.
and whatever that was up. From there, you went to the debriefing areas and the facilities. And then after that was all done, you're free to go do what you want to do.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
But that-
Amazing. It's amazing. Really. And how did your airplane behave just after you dropped your bombs? Because you were losing a lot of weight, of course. And I think as a pilot, you must have felt that.
Well, you feel the lunges there when you lose 10,000 pounds of bombs.
Right.
To salvage them with a white, the aircraft is going to jump.
Right.
That's all.
That's all. Okay. So then you know the bombs are gone. Yeah.
Oh,
They're gone, or right there, as somebody said, they say bombs away, and what you're flying, and pum 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 pum. That nothing more you can do.
No, 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 no. I was just curious if the aircraft then behaved differently if your bombs were gone, but just an.
But you just eliminated
Yes.
half of the weight that you were carrying.
Right. Yeah.
The B-17 would not take very much, hardly ever more than 10,000 pounds,
Mm.
500 pounds, or whatever you want like that.
You
But
make
did
it
you have
sound
to
so
make-
simple.
Yeah, did you have to make any adjustments to compensate for the loss of weight?
Well, of course,
Okay, so
yeah,
once you
sure.
heard that thump, you knew you
Well,
had
it went up, but now you're still flying, and let's say you're still flying 150 miles an hour.
Mhm.
So the adjustment didn't
Would it-
make any difference. Boom, we're
On your
done.
altitude, yeah.
Would it turn quicker because you had less weight or
Never would,
slower?
you
or
never
the-
would turn quick anyway with a squadron.
Well,
No,
true.
no.
Yeah.
Never would turn.
Yeah.
So you stayed in formation when you dropped bombs. You didn't get in a single file line.
What? No, you took the 12 aircraft stayed in one block.
Okay.
3, 6, 9, 12. Boom. That's a squadron.
Yeah.
And once you were on the initial point of bomb run, you flew as close as you could possibly fly with the whole setup to the lead plane. Instead of being out here 200 feet, you're in here 50 feet because you were carrying that whole unit of bombs to drop there. Out here, as I said, drop it out here, you could be over in Tully.
2 miles off.
Yeah, you don't hit the target at all. So, pretty game it was played.
It sounds so simple.
Well, give me that book, honey. I want to show you something, please.
Oh, a blue book. Yeah.
This is our bomb group here. We're
Hmm. Well, it's good to know that I had a 40-minute Zoom limit and they don't cut us off, so.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. That's been 45 minutes already. Yeah.
Yeah,
Wow.
so I think we can keep talking and,
Hopefully.
because I wasn't sure if it would time out, but we're good.
Yeah, I guess so.
I can't find what I'm looking for, so
What are you looking for?
the whole troop's on the runway.
Oh, I'll look. You can talk.
Okay. Well, anyway, that type of thing, the mission was there. You knew we were going to fly tomorrow or not fly
Mhm.
with ideas, and it was a great experience. Were you scared? Maybe.
Mhm.
Let's change it. You were concerned. You didn't know what the world was going to do,
Right.
but we were pretty skilled people through the training that we had,
Yeah.
and it was just one of those things. And I I was more concerned with the fighters attacking us than the ground 88 millimeter flaks.
There's
But
nothing
I
you can
got
do
hit.
about it.
Nothing, no. On one of my last missions, we were on a target, and I was leading the squadron, and the their military had put up 88 millimeter flak explosives at exactly our bomb run altitude.
Hmm.
So you were sitting like you are, and I'm sitting like I was in the plane and looking, and it's right there. And likewise, I'm going to fly right there, and there's not a damn thing I can do about it.
No.
So to continue that, we approached this one, and probably X miles out, there was the first explosion of 6. And the next one was 6, and the next one was 6, and the next one blew up probably 10 feet in front of the plane, right on the nose.
Hmm.
At such a time, that was a little frightening, but at such a time, the explosion went above me, and we got nothing. We were in the right spot for that explosion.
So you're talking about I have to get through it anyway. So you're a bit frightened, but I guess it's a bit difficult to speak for others. But do you think that other pilots were thinking about it and were afraid to fly through it? Do you think, or were you all like you are, that we have to fly through it anyway?
You mean, were they all just a bunch of cavalier flyboys?
I don't want to say that, but
Young,
maybe
young
yes.
and
Young and invincible, right? No, were you
Well,
kind of,
let's say it was interesting.
Were you-
Let's say I was in a nice Red Cross operation in London the day Roosevelt died, and that was it. And we had that type of thing, and all kinds of celebrations and things. But no, it was.
but were the other pilots kind of similar in attitude to you of, I mean, I guess
it is what it is.
it is what it, I guess you gotta have that attitude if you're gonna get in a plane and
Hmm.
be responsible for your crew, and
That's
you gotta have that
that's what
confidence.
you got confidence.
Yeah.
I think I wrote down someplace here in one spot that as your mission happened, everybody was concerned. You're told you got to the aircraft. Personally, at pilot and co-pilot, we 360'd the aircraft to see, in our opinion, everybody has done their job.
Mhm.
Then they loaded.
Hmm.
Well, we got in through the nose of the B-17, the pilot and co-pilot, navigating bombardier generally. The bomber crew, the other 6 got in on the side camp panel. We got in the air, everything's there. And about the time you get taxiing down to takeoff position, there's nothing else you can do but think about the airplane. The rest of it, you're the airplane and you have to do it. And it's not the easiest thing to do, is be it by itself. It's got to be there. So I think that answered it that way.
Guess so, yeah. And how was your well, let me compare it with nowadays in the Dutch Air Force. Our pilots, when they get in their aircraft, they are trusting blindfoldly on the technical personnel. They will accept the aircraft as is, and if we say it's okay, then he believes us. And how was your relationship with the ground crews? If you're going to accept their aircraft or your aircraft, did you believe them, or how was your relationship with them?
Well, on 4 of a kind, which is the aircraft I flew a lot, in regard to crew, if they said they fixed it, they fixed it.
Right.
That's
Yeah,
it.
that's the answer. Yeah.
But you still did a walk around though and checked.
I
things.
just said that.
Yeah.
You did have
Yeah.
to check anything,
Yeah.
but
So you didn't just blindly get in the plane and taxi off.
What would you know if something wasn't right?
well,
No,
well,
If it's that obvious,
Well,
the
if,
ground crew should
But
have.
it is what he said. It is what he said. It's nowadays as well. The pilot doesn't walk around before he accepts the aircraft. That's still the case. But if a ground crew says to a pilot, "We have fixed your aircraft and she's ready to go," then he will believe it. And then that is the case with us. If we don't have that confidence, then we have a big problem. But I guess at that time it must have been the same. If you don't have any confidence in your ground crew, you better not step in your aircraft. I guess.
Just hope all the people like you were doing your job so that they could have that confidence.
yeah,
Yeah.
well, what did we know? as a pilot. We knew what to do inside the aircraft.
Right.
We would make sure that the brakes worked and there's something here or there, but internally, that's their function. The gunner's supposed to be their function. We didn't ask them to test fire at the airport, see if the gun worked.
Good idea.
As long as there were 4 engines under the wing, you were happy.
And all the propellers spun.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Wow.
think it does answer my question though. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, yeah. It's just still the same, and I think it's a beautiful thing. Yeah, we're one team and we're doing it together. Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah. Wow, wow. Yeah, I'm still amazed.
So, don't know if you have more questions, or we can all schedule a follow-up.
Not that I can think of right now. Just want to say I'm so thankful and honored that I can talk to you, to somebody who has flown actually I've been to Kimbolton many years ago. It's still there. One of the perimeter tracks is in a public road nowadays, so you can drive over it. So I've been there. It's a piece of concrete, and when I'm over there in England and I see a piece of concrete, but I know it was a former airfield, well, it does something to me. I think it's some kind of special. But then again, million years ago, there were dinosaurs at the same place, but that's something different to me. Being in that place, it's hollow ground, I think. And all east of Anglia, Kimbolton, and all the other airfields, it's hollow ground. It's hollow ground. Special.
Well, I'll tell you a different story all the way around. I was in West Palm Beach on June 6th, which is D-Day, right?
Yeah.
And I was checking into the hotel, and I was stationed still at Sebring, and we just there for what I considered a nice couple of days. And after I signed in, the person there said that the Americans and the British and whatnot had just landed on D-Day. Fantastic. So somebody did that. I didn't have to do that. I was just having a great weekend on D-Day. Long story short, different happened. We did all over here. So then another time I'm in Florida, and with my aircraft from Mississippi, and I get a call and say, you're involved with 8 others to go to Havana on a goodwill tour. So we ended up going to Havana on a goodwill tour put out by the Rotary Club in Havana, Cuba.
Okay.
The war's over there. I'm going to a party. And we got there, did what had to happen, met a pair of twins, and they adopted me, high-level people in Cuba and whatnot. Rosie sent letters to me all the time I was overseas, and we became great friends in that level and had the greatest thing in the world. They actually had a dinner dance for 800 people down the, I forget the name of the hotel in Havana.
It was the Havana Yacht Club, I think.
No, this is the hotel I was
Oh, at the hotel.
Yeah,
Mhm.
but with the yacht clubs, we went bowling, we did this, and
Tough duty, huh?
everybody's fighting a war, and hey, we're here having a great time. So that's the way the world is when you luck out.
Yeah.
So, quick comment going back to you were talking about all the air bases in England. I assume you're familiar with the mini series they're making called Masters of the Air.
Waiting for it for many years already. Yeah.
10 years or so, probably as long as since you started your book.
Most likely. Yeah. Yeah. Waiting for it. Yeah.
Because we were able to get connected with one of the executive producers and had a Zoom call just like this in August,
Cool.
and were able to talk to, his name's Kurt Sadusky,
Yeah.
and my dad and Kirk got to talk for a while, and Kirk was telling us they were really hoping when Masters of the Air comes out that it will help promote tourism in England to go and visit some of the air bases and the sites, just like Band of Brothers did for France.
Yeah.
So
Well, they have
It's-
to hurry because it's going to they're developing the United Kingdom. Yeah,
yeah,
some airfields
probably-
are going away. Yeah, so must.
Yep.
But that's a beautiful thing. It is East Anglia. It is amazing. Yeah, it's amazing.
and luckily we went back there in what, about 04?
206.
Oh, five.
That's 50,
Oh, five.
205. That's 50 years.
Yeah,
It was
so
50 years after the end of the war.
205. We
So it
were
would've been
there.
05.
Yeah,
60. So,
70 years, right?
yeah, so we did go back to Kim Bolton,
yeah,
husband and I, my dad, and had a wonderful time meeting some of the people from Kim Bolton School and, going on the air base and seeing the pieces and parts that were left. And
yeah.
She walked over the spot where the pole was.
You did? Oh, you know where the pole was? Oh, that's cool.
we should have put a little plaque there.
Yeah. Oh, wow, that's cool. Oh, wow, that's great. Yeah. Well, here in the Netherlands, especially in the south, the people are still thankful to the Americans of liberating this part of the Netherlands. It's actually, we had the American cemetery in Margraten in the south. Every grave has been adopted by Dutch, and there's a waiting list for to adopt a grave. It's the only cemetery in the world for American cemeteries who has this. Yeah. So I think it
that's a nice
signifies, I
idea.
think, how important the Americans are in this part of the Netherlands. Yeah. We will never
Nice,
forget them.
that's very nice idea. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, Chuck and I had a great time living over there. So,
yeah, you were in Huizen, you mentioned.
yeah, we were working in Hilversum,
Okay.
and we lived in a little house in Housen.
Probably
Right.
time to
Yeah, and we still have a friend he used to live right near the Anne Frank house
Princeton
on the Prinsengracht,
Yeah.
but
Okay.
he moved up north. It starts with a G, up in the
Friesland.
up in Friesland, somewhere up that way.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Groningen or Grauw. Yeah.
that's
Yes,
it.
that's it.
I just couldn't quite gurgle.
Groningen. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. That's
And yeah, Joris, I think, lives in Utrecht.
okay.
So we still got a couple friends over there, and
Okay.
hope that someday we can visit when we can travel again. But
Yeah. Hopefully
crazy times.
it is. Yeah.
Is the Netherlands, are they on lockdown again, or?
We are in lockdown in a way that the non-essential shops are closed, and you can sport outside but not inside. So there is a lockdown, but well, maybe a clever one to say the least. But the disadvantage of being Dutch, we are thinking about it, and we have an opinion about it. So we're.
Sounds very Dutch of you.
Yeah, it is. That's our disadvantage. We are not that disciplined like the Germans are, for instance. So, but the numbers are going down with infections are concerned, and but our biggest problem are the hospitals, and we don't have that much capacity in the intensive care. So that's a tricky thing. But we're
How's your,
still in a lockdown till January 14th, and I wouldn't be surprised if they will extend it.
How's the vaccination rate? Do you have your contingent like we do that say they'll never get vaxxed? Or?
Yeah, of course we have those people, and they have a strong opinion about that, which is okay with me. It's their choice, not mine. But I'm vaccinated, and I had my booster as well, so I'm glad I'm protected. So and I do
Yeah.
my thing just to stay home. Yeah.
Same here.
Yeah.
And is Omicron? You said your infections are down.
Yeah,
I mean,
but it's
good-
it's now starting to dominate. Omicron is now the dominating factor, so it's probably going that the numbers will rise a bit. But from what I've learned on the news, because I'm not going to for over a year, I'm not watching the news anymore because it's all negativity. I don't like that. But it seems it is not. It is how do you call it? More infectious, but it is not. Um,
Not as serious.
Not as serious, yeah, but
Yeah.
that's what I've heard, and maybe it's what I want to hear. But well,
Well, that's what they're saying, but yes, and if you're vaccinated and particularly boosted, it's supposed to be pretty mild, and it's the unvaccinated, which of course we have like 70 million, so
yeah,
it's pretty wild over here, but at least we're, we and the people we hang out with and such are all vaccinated and
Wow.
boosted, but
please stay safe.
yeah, we just want to, at least my husband and I are chomping at the bit to travel again, and
Yeah,
here we are, just hoping the world gets better.
it is. It's just the same.
I'll add a couple items back to where we were in the original conversation. Number one, when I finished my tour of operation, I was assigned to come back home to the United States by ship.
Right. Yeah.
Ended up going up to Southampton, had the necessary orders, started to walk onto the vessel, and my name was called, and I answered and went to there, and they said, "You're in charge of this ship until it gets to Boston."
Okay.
Those weren't the worst quarters in the world, put it that way.
Okay.
And the man lucks out again.
Yeah. So you had a pleasant
to
journey over the
finish-
ocean.
And to finish, we were outside of Boston on my birthday, May 7th.
Wow.
But we couldn't land because the day before, no, I shouldn't say outside of Boston, we were outside. On the 7th, we were one day out of Boston because of a hurricane airborne.
At least it wasn't because of a phone pole.
Well, that remains too. So anyway, we landed on the 7th, got transferred to Atlantic City, was given a 30-day leave, and after that I was assigned to the Air Transport Command for the United States troops, and I was to fly all the aircraft to the scrapyard.
Oh.
And I did that from till that day, we'll say June of 45 until July or August of 46.
With the instruction, only get enough gas to get you there.
Yeah.
Repeat in case he didn't hear that.
Huh?
Let him repeat that in case he couldn't hear Chuck. Your
the
instructions
gas.
about how much gas. You were told to only get enough gas.
Oh, well, okay, well, yeah, I'm picking up B-17s, B-24s, two-engine aircraft or whatnot, all over the country, stationed first in the Detroit area, then in Memphis, and then that was pretty near it. Other than Los Angeles, and spent 6 months there. That wasn't the worst place. And then I said, gee, it's time to quit this, so I decided not to. But the thing is, what they're saying is, they give you a War Weary aircraft, and the
Fly it
main
to the
thing,
scrapyard.
yeah, we're going to take it to whereabouts in Arizona,
Kingman.
Kingman, Arizona for scrap. And so, never knew who you were going to have for co-pilot or an engineer, but pick it up, make sure it could fly, had enough gas, as they're saying, to get there. Don't have too much. And that was my job at that point. And then after that, I got out of the military in September.
Wait, but you forgot the part. No, never mind. That was you were going. No. When did you always have engine trouble over Cuba?
Oh, well, that
Coming
was
back from
that was
Ah,
that
that's a
was
different one.
earlier. That was in when I was stationed in Detroit. We were asked to bring brand new B-17s down to the Panama Canal, down at Albrook Field down in Panama. Well, long story short, you take off out of wherever we picked it up in Florida, and just only less than an hour to Cuba, and you always had engine trouble. You had to land and see Rosie and whatnot, and spend a day there while you fixed no engine.
Yeah.
And then we flew down to Panama, and then back again. We take the B-24 that they had and fly back. Well, gee, it's a short trip over Havana. You got to land and check the engine.
Yeah.
So The round trip took about 2 weeks to get from Florida to Havana to back. Never mind getting over to the Kingman, Arizona.
Right, yeah, okay, yeah. The wonders of
But
technical.
nobody knew where you were. The main thing was don't sell it to the wrong person in Kingman, and if it's not there, that's it. Wait a minute. I could have bought them and stolen, and that was a mistake. I didn't do it, but that's all right.
Could have had a B-17s if you'd done it right.
Yeah. So a final question, or maybe a final question, and maybe it's a strange one. If I relate back to my deployment back to Afghanistan, I miss the way of living and the way I had to work over there. Everything was on hand over there. The lines were short between each other, and we had one job to do, and I could do my job without any problems. And they were taking care of me. I had food, I had a roof over my head, I had a bed, and sometimes I do miss that because when I'm back home in the Netherlands, I have a home. I can go home. That's more important. So, was it for you? It's maybe a bit different, but hopefully you understand me. Do you miss it sometimes? Did you miss it sometimes? While you were stationed in the UK?
When you came home, did you miss it? Or
Well,
on to the next
in a
thing?
sense, I missed it because when I came home in September of '46, I remained with the reserves.
Mm-hmm.
After the reserves, I spent 2 years with the National Guard down in Westfield, Mass, and flew what they had down there. And then when I met my wife, Helen, we decided that would be enough, either stay with it permanently or get out, and we elected to leave the military in 1951.
Right. Okay.
But subsequent to that, played all kinds of games since.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I think it answered. Oh wow, that's great. It's wow. Yeah. Thank you so much.
So what's your plan for your book? Are you
Well,
you're going to keep going on it because now you got to add a whole chapter just on Bill Purple.
yeah. Well, yeah. Well, that is basically what I was thinking of, because I would like to consider this what I have at the moment as the base. So this is the story I would like to see as a base, and from then on I would like to add corrections or additions and personal stories. And I do not want to financial benefit for it, so I like to be available for everybody, which also makes it easier to copy paste some of the texts from other pages or books or so, with the right credentials, of course. And with that, then I create the story of that day with personal stories and what happened in the mission reports. Um, in my opinion, everybody that flew has an own story. It's their own truth. So it's pretty much impossible to get 20,000 different stories. But every story, that's amazing. Yeah. Well, I'm speechless.
I mean, there's the 8th Air Force Historical Museum in Savannah, Georgia. Is
I'm
it
aware. Yeah.
sort of thing like that you would provide them an electronic copy for their archives, or
I still, yeah, it's a wish. It's a wish. Yeah, it's a wish. I thought about it, and I have not taken the step yet to do it. Maybe some kind of apprehensive, I guess, a bit nervous to do it. Um, but at the moment, I'm happy as it is right now. And the next
Yeah.
step most likely will be in the museum in Savannah or Duxford, for that matter, in the UK.
Well, it's
so.
pretty impressive. You have done a massive, massive amount of work.
Has he got our friend's book?
I doubt it. Well, whatever. There's the book I read. My dad just asked if I referenced that book earlier, where my dad's the first chapter in it.
Right.
He asked if you had it, and I'm
I
sure
don't
you
think
don't.
so. No, I don't think so. No. The one thing is that when you told me the story of the name Purple, he changed it in Purple, and then he named his original name. That rang a bell with me. Said, I've seen that name before in the story. And then
That's, what are the odds of that? I
Yeah.
mean, really, if you
Wow.
hadn't posted to the 8th Historical Facebook
Right,
page,
yeah.
Dad said to me one day, I want to talk to this guy. I mean,
Cool.
what are the odds that you would recognize his name from World War II? It's just astounding.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Again, it's such an honor. Yeah. One of the
Thank
best days of this year. I can assure you. Yeah.
Well, we've ended it on a good note, haven't we?
Oh yes, we have. Yeah, we have just one day, and then but oh wow. Yeah.
We have
Amazing.
his email and everything.
What's that, Dad?
We have his email. And
Yeah,
everything.
we've got,
You got every communication you need.
yep, we know
Yeah.
how to find each other, and,
I've invited you on Facebook as well a moment ago. So
oh, good.
if you want to connect, that's fine with me. So you can see my private life as well. So my cats. So yeah.
My private life consists of posting pictures of my father, so,
Wow. Proud to do so. Yeah. Well.
so,
Again, very nice meeting you. I'm honored, sir.
Absolutely pleasure to be involved this morning. I think this is great.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is, and I will cherish the moment from one of the first sentences you said that the compliment you gave me on the document. I will cherish that. So that's the biggest compliment I get this year. So thank you so much for that.
yeah. Well, this was a lot of fun. We
Yeah.
certainly appreciate what you're doing and making the time to spend an hour with us. So.
Yeah, well, it was the most enjoyable hour in a long time.
Well, thank you.
A pleasure.
Thank you so
All
much.
right. Should we
Have a
call it a
nice-
wrap?
So yeah, have a nice day. It's 8:15 here in the Netherlands, so go to
What time is it there now?
8:15.
Yeah.
He's 6 hours ahead of us.
Okay.
Yeah, so.
Yeah.
Well, all right, a pleasure, sir, and like to be in contact again. We will in the future.
Likewise, I salute you, sir. Thank you
And
so
Happy
much.
New Year.
Happy New
Thank you.
Year.
All right. Thank you, Joost.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye bye.
All right. Bye-bye. Or doei.
Doei.
All righty.